Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn Taisus Dibra Maschil Bishleim leben Azay Mahalach Ka'im Adami. Let's begin. Bishleim leben Azay Mahalach Ka'im Adami. In the Gemara, we presented a machlokes in a case where a person carried from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah through a Carmelis. The Rabbanan say that the person is chayiv, and the Rabbanan say that the person is chayiv, and Ben Azay says that the person is potter. So the Gemara says that Ben Azay makes sense to us since Ben Azay holds Mahalach Ka'imid. So it comes out that the person really carried from the Rosh Hashanah to the Carmelis, and then he carried from the Carmelis to the Rosh Hashanah, and therefore he's potter, because Mahalach Ka'imid, when a person is walking, it's as if he's standing. So it ends up that he came to stand, and he came to rest in the Carmelis, and that's why he's potter. So there'll be three parts to this Tosfos regarding this statement in the Gemara that we could understand Ben Azay since he holds Mahalach Keimedomi. Let's begin. Kasher l'ri, it's difficult to the ri. Matzarach l'hai timer. Why do we need this reason in order to say that Ben Azay makes sense? That Ben Azay makes sense because he holds Mahalach Keimedomi. Lema, let us say Bish Lema le Ben Azay, that Ben Azay makes sense because le ashkechon kahai gavna de mechayev, because we don't find that such a case as chayev. Ben Azay makes sense to say that he's potter because we don't find that if a person carries from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah through a Carmelis, we don't find that such a case is chayev. We don't find such a case in the Mishkan. Kid the parach mahot time the Rabbanon, just like we asked from this very reason for the Rabbanon. The Gemara continues and says that Ben Azay makes sense because he holds Mahalach Ka'imid. But the Rabbanon, we don't understand their opinion that they say the person is chayev. Where do we find that such a case is chayev? So according to that, we don't have to say that Ben Azay makes sense because he holds Mahalach Ka'imid. Ben Azay makes sense simply because we don't find that such a case is chayev. And now Tosfos is going to support this question by negating a possible answer. The imashum the moide bezerik. If you're going to say that we need to give this reason, we have to say this reason because Ben Azay agrees when a person throws the item he's chayiv. In other words, Ben Azay says if a person carries from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah through the Carmelis, he's potter. However, if he throws the item from the Rosh Hashanah to the Rosh Hashanah over the Carmelis, he's chayiv. In order to explain the distinction, maybe that's why we say Mahalach Ka'imid. So Mahalach Ka'imid, that a person's walking, it's like he's standing, only happens when he's walking. Then it's like he's standing, so he stopped in the Carmelis, but not when he throws the item. So if we're going to say that that's why we brought up the opinion of Ben Azay, that Mahalach Ka'imid, it says Tosfos, Ha'akati lo yada the moide bezerik. We didn't yet know that Ben Azay agrees that if a person throws the item, he's chayev. How do we know we didn't yet know this? The iyada, so Tosfos now proves it. The iyada, because if we did know that Ben Azay agrees that when a person throws the item, he'll be chayev. Lifrei chinami le Ben Azay, we should have also asked them Ben Azay, Azarik, Umayshit, when a person throws the item or passes the item, where do we find it happening that he makes it chayev? The Gemara only asks on the Rabbanan that how could the Rabbanan say chayev? Where do we find that such a case is chayev? Now, if we knew that Ben Azay also makes it chayev when a person throws the item or passes the item, we should have asked the same question in Ben Azay, and we didn't. So that shows that at this point in the Gemara, we didn't yet know that Ben Azay agrees that if he throws the item, he'll be chayev. So we're back to our original question. Why couldn't we just simply say that Ben Azay makes sense? Because we don't find that such a case is chayev. That's why he says pater. V'tirit Sri and Ri answers, the Hachi Kamer, this is what the Gemara is saying. Bishleim le Ben Azay. Ben Azay makes sense. Afilu mashkachas kahai gavna. Even if you'll find such a case, but Mishkan, in the Mishkan, still pater, the person will be pater. The Mahalach Ka'imedami, because when a person is walking, it's as if he's standing. So the Gemara is saying that it's a stronger, by bringing up the opinion of Ben Azay, the Mahalach Ka'imid, it's stronger because it's not just that since we don't find such a case, that's why he's pater. Whether we don't find such a case, or whether we do find such a case, we could still understand the opinion of Ben Azay, because Ben Azay holds Mahalach Ka'imid. If a person's walking, it's like he's standing, so he broke it up into two acts that are not chayev, that a person's pater for. One is carrying from Rosh Hashanah to a Carmelis, and one is from a Carmelis to a Rosh Hashanah. Elul Rabbanon, but according to the Rabbanon, Tikshi should have a question. Heicha Ashkechon, where do we find Chulu, etc.? Where do we find such a case that it's chayev? So that's the first part of Tosfos, where he addressed that the Gemara says that Ben Azay makes sense because he holds Mahalach Ka'imid. And Tosfos asked, why do we need to use that opinion of Ben Azay in order to say that he makes sense? And we answered it. Now we'll move on to the second part of Tosfos. Ubi Yerushalmi Parach, in the Yerushalmi he asks, Al daita the Ben Azay, and the opinion of Ben Azay, Ein Adam is chayev al Dalad Amos v'Rosh Hashanah lo'ilam. A person will never be chayev for carrying Dalad Amos and Rosh Hashanah, since Ben Azay holds that Mahalach Ka'imid, when somebody is walking, it's as if he's standing. So the Yasa Kemisha Huncha Kol Ama VaAma ViPater. It should be as if he did hanocha and eat each amma, and he'll be putter, because according to Ben Azai, when the person's walking, it's like he's standing, so he never completed a full 4 ammas. Rather, it's as if he did hanocha at every point of his walking, and therefore he doesn't have a combined 4 ammas. The Yerushalmi asks this question, and he answers, mashkachas le. So we find that if the person jumps 4 ammas, that's when he'll be chayiv. So Tosfos here is bringing up the second part, which is to discuss, according to Ben Azai, that holds mahalach ka'imid, when and how is a person chayiv for carrying dalad amas and rishus harabim? And Tosfos begins by presenting the Yerushalmi that says he'll be chayiv in a case where he jumps the dalad amas. Now Tosfos continues and brings down the opinion of the Bavli that disagrees. Vashasdi done in our Gemara, loy choshev lo pircha, doesn't consider this a question. We don't ask this question. According to Ben Azai, how could a person be chayiv dalad amas and rishus harabim? Could the amr ba'azerik, like we say in Azerik, the dalad amas v'rishus harabim hilchas ha'gemirila, that the din of carrying dalad amas and rishus harabim is halacha l'meishim Sinai, and therefore everybody will agree with it. Even Ben Azai holds mahalach ka'im adami. Ulahachi le'imakshi Allah, and that's why we don't ask in our Gemara. According to Ben Azai, how could a person be chayiv for dalad amas and rishus harabim? Since our Gemara holds that, being that it's a halacha l'meishim Sinai, even Ben Azai will agree with it, although he holds mahalach ka'im adami. Now Tosfos continues and brings up a side point based on our understanding of Ben Azai. Although he says mahalach ka'imid, he could still hold the chiyuv of da'al amas b'rishus harabim because it's halacha l'meishim Sinai. Says Tosfos v'chein kluto l'Rabbi Akiva. Also kluto, according to Rabbi Akiva, afal gav the kamisha unchadami, even though it's as if it's resting. So when a person throws an item, b'zerik da'al amas b'rishus harabim chayiv. When a person throws 4 amas of rishus harabim is chayiv, even though according to Rabbi Akiva, when it's contained in the ear of the rishus, it's as if it's resting. So it never went a full 4 amas. It's resting at every little distance. So it didn't go a complete 4 amas. He'll still be chayiv. We will not say that it's if it's resting within the 4 amas of rishus harabim, because the chiyuv of dalad amas and rishus harabim is halacha l'meishim Sinai. Now Tosfos continues and presents a question that the Riva has. Based on this, that we're saying that dalad amas and rishus harabim is halacha l'meishim Sinai, even though Ben Azai holds mahalach ka'imid, he'll still hold that dalad amas is chayiv because it's a halacha l'meishim Sinai. How do these two things work together? Do we say that we don't hold of mahalach ka'imid as a result, or do we say we hold of mahalach ka'imid but it won't influence the din? And the way to understand this is discussed in Achrein, and we'll say it in a very straightforward way. But the Riva presents 2 questions that result from the fact that Ben Azai holds that carrying dalad amas and rishus harabim is chayiv because halacha l'meishim Sinai, and he also holds mahalach ka'imid. So let's see it. Riva has a doubt. Kaven the dalad amas rishus harabim, since by carrying dalad amas and rishus harabim, lo amar mahalach ka'imid dami, he doesn't say one who is walking, it's as if he's standing. Afal gav the ba'alma ka'imid dami le Ben Azai, even though in general it is as if he's standing, according to Ben Azai. So im chayiv le Ben Azai afilu amad lofash teich dalad amas. If a person, whether a person is chayiv, the question that the Riva has is a person chayiv if he actually stopped within the dalad amas? Do we say that even though we have mahalach ka'imid, he's still chayiv, and mahalach ka'imid is actually taking place, and it's the equivalent of actually standing, and he's still chayiv, so if he actually stands, he'll also be still chayiv. Imlav or not, maybe he won't be chayiv. Maybe only mahalach ka'imid is something which will not influence the din, but an actual standing will influence the din. So he has that question. And so too, so too if a person did not make an amidah at the end of the 4 amas. He walked 4 amas and he never stood. He never did a proper hanocha. How could that be? For example, somebody else took it out of his hand. So over here we revise a second question. He also has a question here. Do we say Ben Azai holds mahalach ka'imid? He didn't say it within dalad amas because halacha l'meishim Sinai. But once the person left the 4 amas, now he says mahalach ka'imid dami, and therefore he'll be chayiv imlav, or maybe no. Maybe you don't say mahalach ka'imid in this entire scenario, even outside of the dalad amas. So Tosfos here brings a side question based on our presenting the din in the Bavli that dalad amas and rishus harabim will be chayiv even according to Ben Azai. The question is, how does it work together with Ben Azai's opinion that mahalach ka'imid? And now Tosfos completes this and it connects it to Rabbi Akiva, like we did previously. So too by Kluto, according to Rabbi Akiva. Would Rabbi Akiva say, we said that he will not say Kluto Kimisha Hunchadami within dalad amas, but will he say it outside of the dalad amas? Afilu kolta acher oy kelev oish nisrufa. For example, if another person caught it, or a dog caught it, or it burnt. So in other words, it didn't have a proper anacha. So do we say that it went 4 amas and rishus harabim? We don't say kimisha uncha within the 4 amas, but outside of the 4 amas we do say it, or outside the Amos we don't say it. Kevan the Teicha Arba Amos Lo Yamrinon. Since within the 4 Amos we don't say it, do we also not say it outside of the Dalet Amos? Or maybe we do. So we have the same question there as well. And now we move on to the third part of Tosfos. So we just over here had a discussion. According to Ben Azai, it says Mahalach Ka'imid. How and when is a person chayiv for carrying Dalet Amos and Rosh Hashanah? We presented the Bavli, the opinion of the Bavli and the opinion of Yerushalmi, and then we had a side discussion based on our opinion that he is chayiv, how it works also by Kluta, and the question that the Riva had, and how that works by Kluta. And now the last and third part of Tosfos, which is he's going to explain that one of the teachings that we learned in the previous daf from Rabbi Yechanan will not hold of Ben Azai. Nira l'Rashba, it seems to the Rashba, the Rabbi Yechanan, the Amar Le'el, according to Rabbi Yechanan that said earlier, Hamafanach Fatzav, somebody who's moving his item, Mezavis l'Zavis, from one corner of the house to another corner of the house, V'nimlech Aleim, and he changed his mind about them, V'yitzian, and he took them outside, he carried them to the Rosh Hashanah, Pater is Pater. And the reason is because when he did the Akira, when he originally lifted up the items, he didn't do it with the intent to do a malacha, and it's necessary that at the time of the Akira, a person should have kavanah, should have the intent to do a malacha. So it says Tosfos, it seems that Leslie the Ben Azai, he won't hold the Ben Azai. Till the Ben Azai, the Amar Mahalach Ka'imedami, because according to Ben Azai, it says that somebody who's walking, it's as if he's standing at each step, have a chayiv, he'd be chayiv, because although when he did the original Akira, he didn't have kavanah to do a malacha, but when he changed his mind and decided to carry it outside, at that point, he's mahalach ka'imid. When he started the next step, he's aimid, and then his new akira is with the kavanah to do a malacha, so he would be chayiv. So we see that Rabbi Yechanan would not agree with Ben Azai that mahalach ka'imid. And Tosfos just proves this. V'chein muchach behedya b'reish Eilunaris. This is actually proven clearly at the beginning of Parak Eilunaris, which is a parak in Masechta Ksuvos. And with that, we finish the Tosfos. So to summarize, the Tosfos had 3 points regarding what the Gemara says that we could understand the opinion of Ben Azai, because he says mahalach ka'imid. Point number 1 is to discuss why do we need to say that we understand Ben Azai because he holds Mahalach Ka'imid. We could understand him even without mentioning his opinion that Mahalach Ka'imid. The second part of Tosfos was a discussion that according to Ben Azai, it says Mahalach Ka'imid, how and when is a person chayiv for carrying Dalet Amos and Rosh Hashanah? And we presented the opinion of the Yerushalmi and the opinion of the Bavli. And the last and final part of Tosfos was we pointed out that Rabbi Yechanan's teaching in the previous daf, one of his teachings will not hold of Ben Azai.